All right, hey everyone. I am Dr. Eric Richards. Thank you for joining this first podcast of mine, which is obviously a video cast as well. I'm planning on talking with you today about the purpose or the intent of my race or my bid for Cherokee County Board of Education District 5 seat. So. I'm going to treat this a little bit like I would if we were sitting face to face and you asked me, hey, so tell me, Eric, why are you running for this? So I think it really makes a lot of sense to go back over just the history that has led to this. So and I think it would start with just giving a little bit of my background. So I'm a chiropractor. I've been in the Woodstock area. I started my practice here in May of 2001, so I've been here for 21 years. I moved to Woodstock in 2003 and then moved to downtown Woodstock in 2020. Literally built a house right in downtown and moved in late January, and then of course the world started to change in March of 2020. I've been a decently significant part of the downtown political environment over the years. Not really in it as far as office. I've never run for any elected position before. And though I felt like I would at some point, I did not ever see this. Like, this wasn't the plan, and I really thought it'd be way down the runway for me before I would actually run for an office position. So this definitely isn't something that I was planning, and it took a lot of convincing of other people to get me to do this. And so, that should maybe give you pause at first. Is Eric the guy I want if he hasn't been just, building himself to this moment for years? And I think it's a wise question. And, I think that we're going to find as we dig in together that my position or my potential to be a good candidate and to really help this board or help you as it relates to this board is pretty significant when we kind of dig into my my past and then therefore my qualifications. So like I said, I've been in the area for a long time, and I've got a relationship. I've done a lot of stuff in the downtown area. So. Give you a sense. So Health Sprout Chiropractic is my office. It was on Town Lake Parkway for 17 of the years, and then for the last 4 years, it's been actually 5. Maybe it's been. That's weird. I guess I've been over here a little bit longer than that. So 5 years ago, going on 22. The office was one of 7 at one point. So I had opened up chiropractic offices around town. I opened one in Roswell literally a month after I opened in Woodstock. So from an entrepreneurial kind of aggressive perspective, I definitely jumped in fast and furious. Coming out of school, and that was my first gig. I didn't go work with another chiropractor. I basically came right out of chiropractic school at Life to open up multiple offices, one and the next. Now, before that, my time was in financial services. I did that for 4 years, Buffalo, New York. So I am from Western New York, where I was raised in a Christian home. A pretty, I would say pretty strict. I know my parents are going to watch this, and I would call you guys strict. Christian home, raised by my father's a pharmacist, my mother's a teacher. I don't know that provides any additional qualification, for me to be on school board. I don't think it does. My older brother is still a teacher in downtown Buffalo at a school called City Honors, and he homeschools his kids. So, take away what you want. I think the value that it brings me is perhaps just a different perspective, but that's about it. So, was in financial services, lived in Charlotte for a year, moved here for Life University, and that was right around the first anniversary of my marriage to my wife Laura. And then pretty much have been in Woodstock, ever since, at least centered in Woodstock ever since. So along the way, I've always taught lifestyle. People, I'm sure there are plenty of people who are going to see this who have been patients over the years. I built a pretty significant practice here. It was the largest practice in North Georgia for a good window of time. And then I got a little distracted from just that focus because my real goal has always been full lifestyle care. I taught the book. I taught a lecture series on how to utilize the book, What the Bible Says About Healthy Living, which was a book that was presented. Dr. Rex Russell came presented at First Baptist Woodstock, and this was right around the time that I started my practice. Had a chance to see him, was motivated by his book, and so I led a 4-class lifestyle-based class in the coffee shop Jehovah Java. For any of you guys who've been around for a long time, here in Woodstock, you might remember that coffee shop in downtown. And then I later went on to be coached by Dr. Ben Lerner, the author of New York Times bestselling book, Body by God. And then I taught Body by God challenges for a number of years, taught hundreds of people through those. And then started doing a 40-day challenge that was the healing diet. This is going back as many as 15 years to a keto-based diet, but a keto diet done right, done healthy. And then I authored a different program called the 60-Day Turnaround, and I have a book that is written and not published because I just never have actually pulled that last little trigger, but the 60-Day Turnaround, which is basically keto done right. And over the 60-day turnaround time now, I've taught thousands of people lifestyle education. And so, that was always a focus of mine. It was not just chiropractic, and our chiropractic focus isn't chiropractic for back pain, it's chiropractic for wellness. It's chiropractic that's designed to focus on a nervous system and its function. So pretty global look at chiropractic, and in that, I always considered myself to be on the forefront of chiropractic immunology. And that relates back a lot to what happened in the last 2 years, and it relates to understanding and having looked at infectious diseases that could potentially become pandemic in their spread over the years. So H1N1, the swine flu, the avian flu, SARS, MERS, all of those, I have been a very strong opponent against the CDC and its communication. I feel as though this idea that you are weak and you can't survive through these viruses without our assistance is really something that's been played up for years, not just the last 2 years, for years. And so I've stood in pretty much opposition of the CDC and everything they stand for. And as a matter of fact, at times I've had articles that were published in the Town Laker back in the day that I've had patients and friends come and say, man, I feel like I need to give you like a security detail. I think black Suburbans and guys in black suits with little earbuds are going to show up and you're going to be gone and that's it. To which I was like, no, I don't have to worry about that. But you kind of start to wonder sometimes. So that's my position in that kind of health world. I feel as though there's always been a politicizing of the CDC, and there's always been a monetary focus that kind of drives policy behaviors. As much as I don't believe in conspiracy, as much as I believe in opportunity. I believe that a hair's width away from conspiracy is opportunity, meaning they didn't craft it for, but when they saw where it was going, oh my gosh, we could, and then maybe we could, right? So that's something that I'm pretty aggressive on my position related to that, but only based upon scientifically backed information. And so, this past 2 years when we've heard, well, the science says, the media has primarily made up what the science says, and they've told you what the scientists say. And I would say if we ever look at, what is the most reliable source of, scientific data, you'd get into randomized clinical trials, double-blind studies. And the least reliable would be statements from the scientists. That's considered the lowest level of scientific criteria. So, and I would say the scientists of this past 2 years have taken information that we've known and relied on for decades, about viruses, and they threw it out the window, and they start talking about asymptomatic spread as if it happens without a single symptom. And then you hear people like Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms say things like, oh, it's really bad, it's horrible, I am positive, and I was totally, asymptomatic. All I had was a headache and a sore throat. And you just want to hit your head against the wall and say, you just described 2 symptoms. I don't understand what you're talking about. And it's that kind of narrative that started to turn me more and more on to the political side of this in the last 2 years. So if you go back, if you become a Facebook friend of mine, and right now I'm just basically letting everyone in, which I probably shouldn't do, but if you do, you can come back and you can actually look at my timeline. And you go back, March 2020, you'll see first videos of me are here, or Health Sprout, my chiropractic office, where I'm basically saying, guys, get ready for, this is where this is going, and this is why it's not supposed to be this significant, or why you don't have to worry about this, or this is what you should look out for, or this is how we should parse this data in order to figure out who really is at risk. And I'm just kind of going through this and fighting it and fighting it and fighting it. And you just see it's being politicized. And I'm saying, guys, this shouldn't be political. It's not about president this or president that. No one can stop a virus. And one of the things I got known for saying is that the area under the curve will be the area under the curve. And it's been proven now, because now people who have 3 shots still become a number, a data point in the area under the curve, meaning it's not, protection, right? And so that's something that had we all known what we now know, I think it would have been a whole lot easier for us to go forward without mandates, public health mandates, without restrictions, without these things that really hurt a lot of people without providing any benefit. And that's my point, is that in the end of the day, the education should have been, hey guys, if you really are concerned about this, these are the things that you really must do. Not like, oh, the fake cloth mask thing is going to stop it. Like, that's ridiculous. And it really hurt a lot of people. And people died because they thought that the cloth mask was giving them protection. And they were the people who needed protection. And they weren't using something that would give them protection because of things like Dr. Fauci and CDC. So yeah, it's one thing. Maybe that won't be a big part of what goes on the next 4 years in your child's education. But I wanted to start out and get real deep into that, because if it is a part in any way whatsoever, if there's one person you want on that wall protecting your children's ability to go to school normally, to be in a social environment, to not get stuck at home, not be quarantined, and not be tested, it is I. All right, so now we'll put that off to the side. So a year ago, roughly, my daughter's trainer, she's an equestrian rider, so her trainer approaches myself and my wife actually and says, hey, we need one of the 2 of you to run for school board in your district. Where do you live? I'm like, downtown Woodstock. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's District 5. I'm like, I don't even know. Which leads me to the next point I want to make. I said back to her, my kids have never spent a day in public school. How am I a good candidate? I don't even concern myself with this. And the response I got then, which now makes all the sense to me in the world, at the time I just poo-pooed it, was, yeah, but that's exactly why you're perfect for this. Because you have a reason why you never put your kids in school, and it would be awesome if you fought to change that. And then you also have no risk to anything that you would do or say, and you currently say all the right things. So if you could do and say those things in front of other people at a board meeting, then you could become that voice that the parents need, because right now the parents have to be the voice. No board member is the voice. That's a pretty interesting thought, but you know what? I'm just so busy. I got a lot going on in my life. I really don't want to. I don't want to do that. And kind of went back and forth and said, you're a great person for this when it comes to like educating kids. You own a bunch of gyms, so I started a CrossFit gym, CrossFit Garage, with 3 other partners, which I'm no longer a part of. Sold out of that piece. CrossFit Town Lake was one that we kind of had going, then we cannibalized it to grow the garage. Same ownership group. CrossFit Bridgemill was one that we had going, and then CrossFit Silos over in Milton is one that I had going as well. So I was involved with a bunch of CrossFit gyms, and in that I did a lot of, I grew kids programs. I was a big part of bringing kids in for fitness and dietary instruction. And I believe that is one major area that I want to just dive. I don't believe, I know it is a major area I want to dive into, because if there's one thing I hate, it's that schools are becoming less and less concerned with the health of our children. You know, it's more and more about academics, supposedly, because we also see a progressive effort to slide in a whole lot of emotional training. We'll talk about that. So basically, if we look at diet and we look at children and the rampant growth of diabetes in our kids, you know, we look at that rampant need to help create focus, you know, ADHD meds. I can tell you I have had hundreds of kids, if not thousands, over my practice life. And just to give you a sense, my practice adjusted. We saw 800 patients a week for years. This practice was a very large, very robust practice with lots of face-to-face consultation going on in the off hours, plenty of consultation going on during hours in just, you know, promoting healthy lifestyles. So I've seen so many kids go through dietary changes and have massive reduction in risk factors and biomarkers that are indicative of type 2 diabetes being on the horizon. And that is something I would love to take a real big part of changing, and then utilizing that as a means of helping to reduce not only medication that could be in the blood sugar, insulin utilization, you know, metabolic function utilization kind of pathway, but also in the ADHD and ADD world, because ultimately when that diet gets tight and we take away a lot of those sugars, it's an amazing thing how that kind of roller coaster ride, stimulation and regression, is what causes this need to put this constant stimulant in, because as you know, that's what's used as a method of creating focus, is stimulant. You get rid of the ups and downs, and that need goes away. So just again, throwing some of my past into what I think is a huge part of what I can do to help the long-term look at schools. So as I get back though, you know, we had that interaction about a year ago, and I kind of poo-pooed it and said, you know, no, I'm not really going to do that. Then about 6 months ago, I had another person who actually pulled me aside and really talked to me serious about it and said, you know, I think it'd be great for you to consider school board. I think you should consider that. I think it'd be awesome. And you know, I looked into it and thought, you know what, I'm going to go after school board for my private school, my kids' school, which yeah, I won't get into it. I think it would have been good. That's just it's not an elected position, it's just an appointed position. I wasn't selected, and I believe there are good reasons that the board had, and I think there are the reasons that become clear in this communication. I'm probably not the most passive individual sitting on a board, and I don't know that my personality has a place in the minds of those in charge in that school. Maybe that's it. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe there's 1,000 other reasons. In the end, I might have just been a horrible candidate. That's very possible for that. I believe I'm a great candidate for this. So you know, it was what it was. And then I kind of just, you know, poo-pooed the whole thing. I'm very, very busy with the real estate investments I'm involved with here in Woodstock and Milton and other areas around the area. I'm actively involved with this practice still, Health Sprout. I'm actively CEO of a company called the Garage Games, which brings competitive CrossFit to gyms around the world. We're really currently around the country because the world's not been as easy to operate in the last 2 years. And so, but again, lifestyle stuff, always about driving lifestyle change, leading people to a place where you can build an immune system that you can rely on and you can expect to show up when you need it, and basing that on science and data. Yeah, that's what I like to do, is base it on science and data. So, we, you know, let's just fast forward 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks, yeah, probably 4 weeks ago. A group reached out to me, a woman that I know, I've known her for years, reaches out and says, hey, you know, would you consider school board? And she's actually now the 4th person who's asked. And, oh my gosh, I don't know what's up with the school board and you people. Now at this point, I've been paying attention because another good friend of ours has been really digging in and sharing, you know, with my wife and I, just lots of articles. And these are really on CRT, SEL, Social Emotional Learning, CCSD Cares, which doesn't relate to our school, so I hadn't really looked into that as much. But I realized that the body that provides accreditation is also the body that was accrediting my school, our kids' private school. And that became of real interest to me. It was really of interest to me because I thought, well, wait a second. In the first place, I would think there'd be some kind of specialization to a private Christian school over a public school for this accreditation that we're achieving. Should there not be a different pipeline, a different channel that we would be riding in? Is there not a different lens that we should be looked at because of our covenant in our school? It was kind of odd to me. So I start digging in, and I'm looking, and I'm reading more. And I'll say this, and I want to say this up front first, because I do believe I am a good choice for a Democrat who is not at all a far left progressive. If you're a far left progressive, I don't think I'm that guy at all. But in the end of the day, we have some differences for sure that we have. No question. I'm not saying that we don't. But at the core, I believe that you should have the right to be in charge of what your child believes or perceives about the world, the state that the world's in, and the direction of our country, the direction of our legal system, the direction of our moral, ethical code. Like, in the end of the day, you and I may perceive those two things to be dramatically different, but you have the right, and I would actually go so much further to say you have the responsibility to direct your child in their view of those things. Where I have that right for my child, and that's it, purely in the end of the day. And you have a right that if you do believe that a cloth mask on your child 8 hours a day while sitting at a desk and moving around the hall would protect them, and don't give me this protect others garbage, because there's no scientific data that supports this. So if we look at that, then the question then becomes, well, should you not be in charge of yours and me be in charge of mine? And I think we can agree that that makes more sense. Now, I know that as you get further to that progressive side, it starts to look a little bit like, well, you don't care about others. And I will ask you to logically, we can put our passionate anger on the shelf for a moment, debate that as it relates to public health mandates and the things that were brought to bear, and what the real value is, and where we can find that in the scientific data. And let's look historical, let's look current, and let's look at data-driven evidence. I don't want to talk about so-and-so said. No. Let's look at the data. And that data, as I think we all really know now, supports what I am saying. It doesn't support the other. And I said it would support it in March 2020 because I knew it would. Not because I'm a genius, but because I knew history, because I paid attention in the other pandemics. And I paid attention not as an insider, because I don't think that's the place where we'd want me, but as an outsider prosecuting that data, prosecuting it for truth, always. So I do believe then, if you're in a position where you're not really sure, what you want, but you want your kids in school, then I think I'm a good choice for you, because I think I'm going to help that. I'm going to push for that. So, all right, so back over. So now, what brought me into that, though, was what about CRT? So I tend to think the idea of racial equality is incredible. It's awesome, and it should be in everyone's life. But how does it get there? Right back to what I just said. The parent is in charge of teaching their child racial equality. Because when it gets put into a position where another body is in charge of it, especially if it's a government, it is a 100% failure rate. It does not belong. The government has no place in this role. It should not be in social emotional learning. anything that starts to reprogram how an individual views another individual outside of that leadership from a family member, from a parent, mom, dad, or someone that mom and dad decide they want to place in that role, will not work. It will fail. It will break down the bond of parent-child. Like some of these questions that we've heard about in the Panorama survey that really almost look like they have no purpose but to divide parent and child. I will argue that at another time, but that's where I stand, and I hope that you identify that that's important, that it's important that relationship is driven in the household, in the home. It's not in the school. And so that's really my platform. That's what I stand for. Now, as you continue to see new programs come out that find ways to hide the CRT agenda in other programs or other curriculum, can I hunt that down and find that? I don't think so, but I think you can. And I think what has been missing from the Board of Education in Cherokee County are board members who truly want to be the voice of the majority. But rather, I feel as though we have people who they think they should be the voice of a very vocal minority. That needs to stop. And that's my goal. So I hope I can earn your vote. That's the end of this introductory session, and I'll have more podcasts along the way, and we're going to talk about things specifically as it relates to healthcare and children, as it relates to curriculum on the negative or curriculum on the positive. How do we improve our testing scores in this county to get back to where the school system once was across all schools? And how do we do that in a way that engages parents in the schools? And I think that's something that we've all seen, that the world is screaming out, the U.S. is screaming out, saying parents should be involved with the children's education. So, all right, thanks so much. I'm glad that you tuned in for this, and I hope to see you soon.